All right, good afternoon, everybody. Hey, this is the first time we have done a webinar on YouTube Live. So anyone in the chat, please feel free to just flick me a quick message to say, confirm that you can see and hear me. I'll get that all sorted before we get going. All right, fantastic. Okay, well, welcome to the Trail Light Know Before the Show webinar. So thank you for joining on today. I guess the whole purpose of what we wanted to do with this webinar was take the opportunity to reach out and connect with a few potential customers, people who are coming out to the show, and to really help you understand, I guess, the core basics of motorhoming and caravanning. If you're watching this, I think it's safe to assume you are interested. And certainly if you're going to the show, you're going to see an awful lot of wonderful products from wonderful manufacturers. So what we're going to do today is just work through some of the things that it really helps to know before the show. So before we get into it, I'll just get things shared. Okay, so we'll get a move on. So before we start, my name is Adam Thomas. I've been working for Trail Light Group for, this is my 5th year now. Look, I've got to say, it's a wonderful place to work, and it's a very exciting industry to be in. And certainly becoming a member of the team, I have been very privileged to be able to take away some gorgeous motorhomes over my period with the company. And go on some wonderful trips throughout this beautiful country that we have with my kids. And so that's who I am. I'm really, really excited for this show. And we're looking forward to seeing you there. We're going to be down there with a lot of product. Now, a little bit more about Trail Light Group. So Trail Light Group, this is actually a very, very special show for us this year because we are celebrating 70 years in manufacturing quality caravans and motorhomes. So we've been doing it for a wee while. We are still 100% New Zealand owned. I'm sitting in my office here, and right behind this wall behind me is the Trail Light factory. So that's where we manufacture all of our caravans and motorhomes. We are based in Pukekohe, Pairata Road more specifically. So if you are ever up this way and passing through, you're more than welcome to come to the yard. We always have a huge amount of caravans and motorhomes in stock. And if you make sure you bring your closed-toe shoes as well, you're more than welcome to grab a salesperson, and we would love to take you through the factory. So you can actually see every step of the process and what it takes to create these beautiful motorhomes and caravans. So as I mentioned, this Hamilton show, we're really, really excited to be going down there. We are coming down with an awful lot of units, so many that we actually have our own building. So when you get there and you get into the main area where everybody else is, you're not actually going to find us. So we have the Trail Light Pavilion. So please make sure as you sort of head on through and have a look through, make sure you come out and find us. It will be well worth your while, and we would love to see you there. So going into a show, what a show is good for. I've got to tell you, I love the excitement of the shows. It's a great place for a whole bunch of manufacturers, retailers, and related companies to get together. This one in particular, being in Hamilton, is nice and central. It's really easy to get to. It's a beautiful venue. And I guess, look at New Zealand, there's retailers and manufacturers right throughout the country. So to get everybody all in one spot is absolutely fantastic. So in, a matter of a day or 2 or 3, you can actually get across a huge range of options. You can see all of the different models. You can check out all of the different importers and manufacturers. You can run between, your short list when you're finally starting to hone in on a specific unit. Comparing them and making sure that it's all good to go. It's also a great place to see what the newest innovations are. So we do, while the shows are great for when you're first looking at purchasing, we see a lot of familiar customers that are already out there enjoying the motorhome and caravanning life, and they're just keen to check in, to have a look at the newest models, to see the technology. It's always changing, it's always getting better. Yeah, it's just a great opportunity to say hello to a lot of people. But with that goes a little bit of a word of warning, is that the whole vibe of the show, it's a fantastic atmosphere. There's people everywhere. All of these beautiful motorhomes and caravans. Obviously, if you're already excited about that, you can sort of get swept away a little bit. And so that's what the purpose of this webinar is. It's to help you not get swept away in all the hype and fanfare and then jump into a caravan or motorhome without really understanding whether that's the right caravan or motorhome for you. So as we work through our webinar today, we're really going to get into pretty much just the basic things that you want to know. I guess you don't know what questions to ask necessarily if this is your first foray into motorhoming or caravanning. You might have rented one, you might have friends who have one. So really what you want to do is understand, have a bit of a plan so that when you get to the show, you know what you're looking for, you know what you want to achieve at that show. You might decide that we are going to buy at the show. And shows are a great place to buy. Often there's all sorts of offers and value adds that you can get hold of. Otherwise, you might actually just take this as a fact-finding mission. So you might want to go around, visit, you might want to collect all your brochures and go through and just really upskill and get a better understanding of what you're getting into. So just remember, though, in that frenzy, you've got salespeople there, you've got beautiful motorhomes, you'll potentially have some really good deals as well. But just remember, don't get caught up in the frenzy and end up with a motorhome or a caravan that might not be suited for you. Fear of missing out could cost quite a bit. And when we're looking at, a motorhome or a caravan, you're looking at a pretty substantial investment. So do your research, take your time, slow it down. They all look good. They've all got the fancy LED lighting. They're all in showroom condition. One thing that you might actually find as well is, certainly when I first got into the industry, on our yard here, we've probably got about 20 different motorhomes. And fundamentally, they all look fairly similar. They've all got wheels, they've all got beds. They all look like just little different variations. Pick your favorite layout, but that's not quite the case. Not every motorhome is designed for every application. So I guess the best thing to do is to really spend some time educating yourself. So speak to people, and before you actually come in, talk to each other. Have a chat about how you want to travel and what you want to achieve. Everybody has an image in their head, a dream, something that drove you to jump on this webinar and something that is bringing you down to the show. So you've got some sort of an idea of what you want. So things that you need to really start to consider are, how many passengers are you wanting to take with you? So probably the lion's share of our customer base are couples. And a lot of couples, they want the ability to potentially have guests now and then, but not necessarily all the time. You might be in a situation where you are a young family and you want to have the kids with you all the time. That's obviously going to really, really cause you to look at quite a different type of a motorhome, because you've got to think about things like seat belts, sleeping positions. You've got to think about things like, water capacities. Have a think as well about where you want to go in New Zealand. So some people, the dream is that they just want to tiki tour around the country, dropping in on the kids at their houses, and the motorhome or the caravan is just their little space away. But they'll generally be staying at campsites. They'll be staying with friends and family where you'll be plugged into mains power and you'll have access to fresh water. So people in that boat, they're not really going to need a motorhome or a caravan with big solar or big water, because you've got all those facilities there. And your motorhome or your caravan is more just your little home away from home. Say, for example, if you just want to leave civilization behind, you want to just march to the beat of your own drum. You want to go up and down any road that unfolds in front of you to see where you end up. And that when you get to the end of that road, if there is nothing there, you want the ability to stay there for as long as possible. Then that again is a very, very, very different motorhome or caravan to someone who is going to go for shorter trips and have access to more facilities. So understanding that will help you to look at a range of motorhomes and to start to differentiate between them, and really hone in on what motorhome or caravan is going to work for you. So I thought I'd spend a little bit of time up front talking about caravans. So caravans, this company started with caravans, obviously. They were all the rage before someone put a motor in them and decided that motorhoming was a great idea too. So in terms of caravans, our history, as I said, 70 years we've been manufacturing them. We manufacture them here. We also import a range of caravans. So if you are considering a caravan, there are a few things that you might want to consider and you might want to think about before you start really even looking at the caravans. Caravans are having a little bit of a resurgence at the moment. Sort of the cost of manufacturing and importing motorhomes has gone up quite a bit in the post-COVID years. So it's caused a lot of people to actually have a second look at caravanning again. More often than not, you may already have a vehicle capable of towing a caravan. Therefore, because you're not buying another engine, the cost to enter to get your first caravan is a lot cheaper than, say, perhaps your first motorhome. So if you are thinking about that, one of the big things that you need to understand is, what's it like to tow a caravan? A lot of our customers have boats, so they're not necessarily unfamiliar to towing. But caravanning, obviously, it's something that you've got to get your head around to understand it. So when you are out there and considering, towing, the very first thing you need to understand is your tow vehicle up to it. So every caravan will have its weights stated. I'll go into more detail on GVM, so gross vehicle mass, but a GVM in short is the maximum weight that caravan can be while fully laden and on the road. So your vehicle needs to have the capacity to tow that. So if you're not too sure whether your vehicle does have the capacity to do that, whether you've got a tow bar or not, a really great resource is the AA website. So if you want to find out what your vehicle is rated to, best to just jump on Google, type in AA Tow Ratings New Zealand, and you'll be able to find certainly a huge variety of cars up there. I've used this database an awful lot, and it's never not had a vehicle that I've been looking for to get its tow rating. So if you jump on there, you just look by brand and model, and that will give you an idea. Well, actually, that will give you the exact towing capacity of that vehicle. So you can know up front before you even come to the show. You might find out that your vehicle has a 2.5 ton maximum braked tow rating, and therefore you know that if you want to keep that car for your caravanning experience, that all you need to do is make sure that you're looking at caravans under that 2.5 ton maximum weight. There are all sorts of different caravans as well. We stock the Aldous range of caravans. Those are British manufactured caravans. The beauty of these is by design, they are incredibly lightweight. The way they do that is they build on a lightweight chassis, and the caravans themselves are really lightweight construction. and the habitation, so the walls, the ceiling, even the furniture actually forms part of the structural integrity of that unit. So these caravans are very, very light. I have a customer who has a 7-meter caravan, an Eldest caravan, and would you believe he's actually towing it with a Volkswagen Golf, which is quite a compact car. But that does have a 2-ton rating, and he's quite happy traveling around in that. So the beauty of these lightweight caravans is they are affordable. The Eldest range have a huge variety of layouts to choose from, so arguably there's going to be something to suit you. And they're very, very good to tow. They follow beautifully. Now, in terms of limitations of a lightweight caravan, they are definitely designed for roads and campsites. So if you're just wanting to sort of tiki-tour down State Highway 1, pulling into friends' places, pulling into campsites, that's what these are perfect for. If you want to sort of get off the beaten track a little bit more and you want to go up rutted gravel roads, you want to go over rolling farmland, just by design, these caravans are not suited to that, because what you do is you start getting a bit of flexing throughout the body. So if that's you, don't worry. We manufacture for those people who want to get off the beaten track a little bit more. Make sure you come and see us at the show, because we will have our trail light caravans there. Now, our trail light caravans are built tough. So instead of using a lightweight chassis where the whole structure sort of forms part of the structural integrity, we build on a solid steel chassis with independent off-road suspension. Now, we're not talking about these big jacked up Aussie caravans that are absolutely huge and quite menacing looking. Our still looks really sleek, it's really refined and it's beautiful, but it is designed for a little bit more hard work in terms of, as I say, that rutted gravel road. If you want to go down some farmland, a paddock, rolling dock camps, you can do that with this caravan. That is what it's designed for. So pretty much it's New Zealand proof. They're high enough so that you're never going to have any problems getting on and off ferries. Obviously, we manufacture in Auckland and we have a yard in Christchurch, so we are towing these down quite regularly. And so you can jump on those ferries without any worries of bottoming out or scraping the backside as you come off. Come and have a chat to us as well if you are interested in caravans, because there are a couple of things to know as well. Things such as, what tow ball you need. The European ones, they tend to have a high-rise tow ball, while the Kiwi and Aussie ones, they tend to be a little bit shorter. You need to understand the braking system. So for example, the beautiful Eldest caravans, they work on a kinetic braking system. So what that means is if you've got a tow bar, you hook it on, you're good to go. Those brakes will actually engage with inertia. So when the car starts to brake, it compresses the bar of the caravan, which then engages the brakes without any external electronic mechanism or control system. There are other systems that will have electric brakes, all sorts of different things. You can even get wireless electric brakes now. Certainly talk to us about that if you're looking at the trail light caravan. But understanding that as well, that's going to help you understand how you tailor your setup and go from there. So caravanning, the beauty of caravanning is you tend to go to a destination more so with a caravan, and that's more like your home base. So you might say park up at a site, you've got your caravan all set there, ready to go. And the beauty is you've then got your vehicle to tiki-tour around in. So you might find that on a caravanning trip, you might have your home base and you do more day trips rather than necessarily going A, B, C on a big tour, although you can do that. But the beauty of this is once you've set up your camp, that's your home base. If you run out of milk and you need to shoot down to the shops, you don't have to pack up your campsite and then take your entire campsite down to the dairy. You can just jump in your car and take off. It also makes exploring, in particular of towns and windy roads, a little bit easier because instead of driving your motorhome right into an unfamiliar town, for example, you've got your passenger vehicle there too. So I guess caravanning, really exciting. It's a great way to get out there and see it. It's more like a home base out there that you can take with you. Gives you all of that freedom and convenience of having your own car. And certainly the cost of getting into it, as I mentioned before, it's a lot cheaper outright, because obviously you're not buying another engine. If you've already got the tow vehicle, then fantastic. Otherwise, you might need to upgrade to a vehicle that is capable of towing it. So something that's pertinent to both caravans and motorhomes is this word payload. Now, this is really, really important. So every vehicle on the road will have a maximum permitted weight that vehicle can be. Now, that's really crucial that you understand what that is. And it's also crucial that you understand what the weight of your caravan or your motorhome is as it sits. So out in front of me, we've got a whole yard full of beautiful motorhomes. As they sit there, that essentially is their tier weight, the weight of that vehicle before you put any people in it, before you put any water in it, any gear, friends, family, dogs, anything that you take. So the tier weight, when you're dealing with trail light, that takes into account, if it's a motorhome, a full tank of diesel. It takes into account 1 9 kg gas bottle, and beyond that, pretty much nothing else. Now, this little equation that you see on screen, GVM less tier equals payload, may be a little bit of a mystery to you. So we're going to pick that apart slowly because it's really crucial that you understand that. So every vehicle essentially has a payload, and the payload is the amount of gear, well, essentially extra weight that you can put into that motorhome or that caravan. So say, for example, if I were to have my motorhome, it would have its tier weight, and then it would have its GVM. So if I've got a motorhome that weighs 3 ton as it sits, and it's on a warrant of fitness, which means that its GVM, its maximum on-road weight, is 3.5 ton, then that means I've got 500 kilograms to play with. And so what I mean by that is within that 500 kilograms, I need to take into account passengers. I need to take into account food, toys, bikes. Water is a crucial one. Obviously, these motorhomes and caravans are going to have water tanks on them. And when you're trying to sort of calculate that, have a think about, what you're going to take with you. If you want to go to places where you may not have water available there, that means you're going to have to travel with that water, and that is going to have to take up part of that payload. So in that same example, if my water tanks are 100 kilograms, then that's 100 liters. That's 100 kilograms less payload that I get for people and gear. So when you're thinking about water, generally speaking, 1 liter is about 1 kg. So that gives you a really good way to sort of understand it. And when you're looking at motorhomes, make sure you look it up on the brochure, or you ask the salesperson. Make sure you understand what the payload is. And for that to also be useful, you need to understand, well, what do we want to take with us? So say, for example, if your dream is to just have a compact motorhome, you're quite busy, but you want the ability to, on a Friday night, just jump in it, throw a go bag in, and hit the road for a day or two, then obviously you're not going to need a very big payload. If your dream is to have electric bikes hanging off the back, you want to have heaps of water for a week or two off grid, you want to be able to throw the grandkids in there as well, you want to take the dog, beer, wine, food, fishing gear, golf bags, all of that has to be taken into account. So if before the show you can kind of get a feel for what sort of weight capacity you actually require from payload, that's going to allow you to rule out a lot of motorhomes straight up front. So, and what that does as well is it allows you to not get overwhelmed by looking at too many motorhomes. Say, for example, most brands do a version of a 7.4 meter motorhome with an island bed at the back with good storage. Generally, they've got 4 seat belts and 4 sleeping positions. But you've got to be quite careful. We've got one of those options here on the yard today that has 1 ton of payload, and we've got one on the yard that has around about 450 kgs. So you can see that side by side, they would look like quite similar vehicles. But depending on what you want, if you want to do the bigger trips, then the one with the smaller payload isn't actually worth looking at, because it's just not feasible that you'll be able to do that safely. Lastly, as well, payload is important because if you're overladen, well, essentially you never want to be overlading, because if, say for example, you had an accident and it was found that you were overweight, I'm sure that could potentially lead to insurance implications and problems down the track. So make sure you understand that. Caravans payload is pertinent as well. Caravans tend to have a smaller payload, but that's taking into the fact that caravans are never going to be moving with passengers in them. So they don't need as big of a payload. But that is still important. If you do want to get a caravan that's going to have the bikes on the back, fitted tanks, then you're obviously going to need a much bigger payload than some. Now, WAF versus COF. This is another one that's really, really important to sort of understand as well. So you're probably all relatively familiar with WAF. That's a warrant of fitness. So that is the safety check that you get done on your car. The beauty of a warrant of fitness is that if you're buying brand new, you don't have to get a warrant of fitness for the first 3 years. And then after that period, after that 3-year period, you just get a warrant of fitness annually. Now, a certificate of fitness is a more comprehensive check designed for vehicles that are over 3.5 ton. So 3.5 ton is the limit. Under 3.5 ton, so if your vehicle's GVM or maximum permissible weight is under 3.5 ton, then you can have that on a warrant of fitness. If it's over 3.5 ton, then you're going to move into a certificate of fitness. Now, a lot of people, certainly in motorhome and I guess this industry, they get really frustrated at the certificate of fitness. This is a much more comprehensive check. It is from day one and it's every 6 months. So obviously that is designed really for commercial vehicles that are doing huge miles. However, because of the way it's currently structured, motorhomes over 3.5 ton will fall under a COF. And a lot of people find this really frustrating, because if you are not retired and you're working and you get particularly busy, you might have your motorhome parked up for 6 months and not actually use it, and then all of a sudden you're due for another COF. So you've got to muck around and get down to VTNZ and get it checked out. So a lot of people come in with the preconceived idea that, hey, they want a vehicle on a warrant of fitness, not a certificate of fitness, because they don't want the hassle. But a word of warning on that as well: for probably the vast majority of people, you're probably better off going for a certificate of fitness and just accepting the fact that it is every 6 months. The reason being, for most people, a vehicle on a warrant of fitness is going to have quite a tight payload. So say, for example, if it's largely just going to be a couple and you've got e-bikes and water tanks, even under those sort of parameters, probably you're looking at a certificate of fitness, unless if you're going for a very small vehicle, therefore a lighter vehicle, therefore a larger payload. So don't come in with the preconceived idea that you're not going to look at a vehicle unless if it's on a warrant of fitness, because that could actually see you wrong in the long term if you haven't really understood that payload aspect. So make sure you look into that. Something that's also semi-related to this, people ask, what's the difference between a Class 1 license and a Class 2 license, and how does that relate to motorhomes? So in New Zealand, with a standard New Zealand driver's license, we are able to drive up to 6 tons. So a vehicle with a GVM, so maximum on-road weight of up to 6 tons. The beauty is, for example, just as an estimate, a 7.4 meter, probably moderate sized motorhome on a Fiat Ducato, for example, that might be 3.5 ton GVM, it might be 3650 GVM. So you can see that on a Class 1 license, you can actually drive a very, very big vehicle. One of our biggest models that we manufacture is the Coromandel. It's 8.3 meters. It has a huge Luton bed. Depending on how you specify your build, more often than not, those vehicles actually fall into a Class 1 license as well. So a Class 1 license, as I said, it's 5,995. So just shy of 6 ton is your maximum GVM that you can drive on a Class 1 license. Anything over that, then you're looking at an HT license or a Class 2 license. So it's a pretty straightforward test to do. It takes a couple of days to get a Class 2 license. Generally speaking, if you are wanting to, say, tow an additional vehicle with you, you might see a lot of motorhomes out there that have Suzuki Jimneys seem to be all the rage behind it. You might see a motorhome out there with a boat behind it. More often than not, they're going to be over that 6-ton mark and therefore needing a Class 2 license. So never hesitate, in terms of Class 2 vehicles. They are fantastic. They are just as easy. It's more just around legislation and making sure that you do have the right license to drive it and get the right vehicle. And just quickly before I move on, in terms of motorhomes in New Zealand, virtually all are powered by diesel. So diesel diesel engines are high torque engines. They're very economical. So relatively cheap to run considering the size of the vehicle that you'll be moving, and certainly compared to, say, if you were fueling that by petrol. A lot of people ask us about electric vehicles. Still very, very early days in that technology, and certainly there's no real solution looking to come into market, certainly in the midterm, that could apply to motorhoming. Some Kiwi manufacturers have tried it, and they've just found that the range is too low for a motorhome. When you're out there on the road, you want to go to your destination, you want a tiki tour, you want to meander. If you've got that range anxiety, wondering where you're going to be able to charge up next, then that certainly ruins the experience. So at this point in time, there's certainly nothing on the horizon in the short or even midterm in the electric space. So another thing to think about as well is self-containment. So you've probably all seen self-containment stickers. Self-containment stickers pretty much just certify that this caravan or motorhome has sufficient fresh water, waste, and power for people to get off grid completely independently. So with that, you're able to freedom camp in most places in New Zealand. There have been some legislation changes, so it's now a green sticker. So we're currently working through that, but all of our vehicles will have that green sticker. So the beautiful thing in New Zealand, you can sort of tiki tour where you want, and the vast majority of this country is if you have a self-contained sticker and you are certified self-contained, if you pull up somewhere and it's a beautiful spot and you choose to stay there, you're more than welcome to. Always check though with local council bylaws. They do have the ability to section off certain areas and put more tight restrictions around whether you can freedom camp there or not. So going into a little bit more detail in self-containment. So self-containment is, I guess your needs will be dictated by how long you want to be entirely independent. So as I mentioned before, if you're just visiting friends and family, you can almost look at any motorhome or caravan that you want to, because you don't really have big needs in terms of, you don't need big water tanks, you probably don't need huge solar, you don't need massive batteries or anything like that. If you're wanting to really get off the grid, go to a dock camp, park up there for a week or two, then that's where this is crucial. And what you're going to need to think about is whether you've got the power, the water, and the facilities on board to keep you happy and comfortable while you're there. So in terms of power, while you're off grid, caravans run off a 12-volt system. So often you'll have AGM batteries. So they sort of look like your car batteries that you might be familiar with. They power your LED lights. They will power your TV if you've got one, your satellite dish if you've got one. They will keep your phones charged. They will keep pretty much the motorhome or caravan running as it is without any trouble. In this day and age, you might hear a lot of talk about lithium batteries. Lithium batteries are the next generation of battery technology. And the beauty of lithium batteries is they're physically much smaller and much lighter. They charge a lot more economically, so they charge faster. And you actually get a much, much longer lifespan out of lithium. So that's a great way to sort of keep the lights on for longer. When you're off grid, the crucial thing is when you're using power, you need to be replenishing that power. So if you're parked up and you're not running the engine, when you're running the engine, say in a motorhome, that will be charging those batteries. But if you're parked up and just camping, then you need to make sure that your solar system is adequate and it is pushing enough solar charge back into those batteries to keep them replenished. When you're out and about, you'll get good at monitoring that. You'll start to understand, on cloudy days, you monitor your power consumption a little more closely, because obviously you're not getting that recharge going in there. In terms of what your solar needs are, most self-contained motorhomes, to be honest, come with enough solar and battery to keep the lights on and maybe run a TV for a day or two. If you're looking to really get off grid, and say, for example, if you want to run an espresso coffee machine, you want to be able to charge your e-bikes independently off grid, then that's a whole nother conversation, because that requires quite a bit of investment into that power package. E-bikes are high drain devices, and many e-bikes actually require more power than a motorhome does. So if you're plugging an e-bike battery into a motorhome trying to charge it, you're actually taking the smaller power capacity to try and charge the larger one. So it can be done, but it means that you're going to be putting a lot of solar on there to make sure you're bringing that charge up. It's going to mean you're probably going to be on a lithium battery, and it means that you need a little device called an inverter, which allows you to boost that power from a 12-volt system to mains power for the period that you're charging those batteries. So that little part of it, if that all seems a little bit too technical, don't panic. Have a chat with us. Make sure you book in some time at the show. Come and see us, and we'll help you out and help you to get really clear on what power solution you need. There's no point investing huge amounts of money in a much more detailed power system if you're not going to need it. So we'll help talk you through that. So in terms of coming before a show, as I was saying, it can be quite overwhelming. It's a great place to do your research, but come with a plan. Have a clear strategy. And so what I mean by that is really understand what your requirements are. So have a think about who is going to be traveling with you, how often they're going to be traveling with you. Have a think about layouts that might work for you. Do you have any access or mobility issues? Have a think about how much power or water you're going to need, whether you want to be off grid for longer periods, or whether you're happy just sort of jumping from house to campsite and to service station where you can replenish your water. Have a think about what retailers that you want to speak to. Obviously, everybody will be there, but if you have a plan and hey, we're going to talk to these 3 first, that will allow you to stay focused, to stay on the task. To tick off the ones that you're really there for before you sort of start meandering around. And again, make sure you do all this before the show, because if you go in there without a plan, it can be overwhelming. There's just so many people. There's all sorts of good deals, but you've got to get really clear. We try to encourage our customers to buy right first time, and to do that, you need to really be clear on what your desired outcome is, how you want to travel, and if you do that, you come to a show with that in mind, you're going to have a better time. A lot of people come in, they grab every single brochure off every single retailer. I would suggest try not to do that, because then they all blur into one sort of Frankenstein motorhome that doesn't exist. I can assure you, if you're looking at 100 motorhomes in one day, they're all going to eventually blur. You won't be able to differentiate, which one has this and which one had that, and so on and so forth. So come on in with a plan. Make sure you find us at the show as well. We come down with an awful lot of people. We usually have around about 20 units there. Probably got as many staff there too. So we've got plenty of capacity to have a chat, to help you really get clear on what you need, to show you what you want to see. And we're very much looking forward to the show there. As I say, it's a very special one for us. It's our 70th anniversary. We are at the Trail Light Pavilion, not in the main area. So we've got our own building. So thank you very much for joining. We look forward to catching up with you at the show. If you do have any questions, my contact details are here. You can get me via email, on the phone, or pop on into the Trail Light Yard prior to the show. We'll be more than happy to have a chat and help get you clear. Cheers.